Re-Zero, Arc 7, Chapter 67, Hidden Behind the Molar.
At first, when Old Man Null heard Subaru's request, his mouth, with several missing teeth, had distorted in a grandiose manner. From what he had heard, Old Man Null was a healer on the island, that is, so to speak. He was acting as an imitation doctor, yet until he came here, he had never done anything like treating others. Old Man Null had been here from before Gustav had taken over as the island's chief and governor. During a period when the island was much more harsh and deadly, he had happened to obtain the role of a healer. It all started when he just applied a dirty cloth on an open wound of a gladiator, of whom had lost his arm. With that as a start, when it came to treating people, the amount of times he was being called upon were increasing, and before long, he was excused from having to stand in the gladiatorial arena as a gladiator, and was ordered to work as a healer in the healing room. From there he spent a long time as a healer, and corresponding to his position, came across plenty of bloody scenes. Thanks to that, he became able to at least do stuff like stitching up wounds or mixing simple drugs. Thinking that he would live peacefully as a healer until he died, he gave a smile with his yellow teeth. Subaru also felt guilty for having caused Old Man Null's face to have distorted in such a grandiose manner. However, if Subaru were to try and actualize the things that he wanted to do on this island, the things that he had to do, then no matter what, that was an indispensable thing. That is why, to Old Man Null, who was doing a praiseworthy job of saving people, Subaru made a request. Subaru, can you prepare a poison that can instantly kill a person, just by biting or licking it? He felt bad for Old Man Null, but this was necessary. It would be a bigger problem for Subaru to pass out in the middle of a fight or survive in a partial state. There had to be a way to start over, and, once Subaru had the means to do so, he would be perfect. Subaru, well, it would help if my legs were a little longer. Such complaints were the opinion of those who came across a situation in battle where a single big step was not enough. Of course, that one step was forcefully solved by jumping ahead 2 steps faster to the next opportunity. Repeating trial and error to find the best action, one could grasp the desired future. That was why? Gustav, that's enough. Well done, you survived Sparka. By my power as the official, I accept you as a member of Gladiator Island. The low, resounding declaration commended the end of a fierce battle that had been waged in the gladiatorial arena. In the middle of the gladiatorial arena lay the corpse of a gladiator beast, lying on its back with 2 swords, one large and one small, pierced into its body. Its 2 wings and long tail had been severed, leaving it in a pitiful state. But how it used its wings to move and those attacks from its sharp tail were really troublesome. Since conquering those 2 problems was absolutely necessary to damage its body, he just wanted to put it out there that they did not hurt it needlessly. And, Subaru, Gustav-san, seriously? Breathing heavily, his shoulders heaving, Subaru looked up at Gustav standing at the seats that were positioned closest to the arena. The governor of the island, with his 4 burly arms crossed, oversaw the Sparka's conclusion. He seemed like an obstinate, inflexible man, but Subaru did not expect even his declaration to be the same word for word. It was hard to imagine that he coincidentally used the same words for this battle and when it was Subaru and his group's turn, which made it seem that Gustav's declaration was probably the same every time. Anyway, ? We did it. We did it. We did it. We survived. We survived. ? We're alive. You are. ? Heen. ? I can't believe it. I thought it was the end of the world. ? Maybe we died and went to Odlogna? Around the corpse of the gladiator beast were 5 people, stunned and rejoicing in their own ways at their victory. They were Orson, Hitz, Nadri, Quanson, and Codley. They were all lizardmen, but no 2 were of the same ethnicity, and the formula for victory was the understanding of everyone's unique characteristics and how they worked together. As was the case with Whites and his team, victory would not have been achievable if any one person was missing. Of course, it would have been impossible without Subaru, but they won. With a snap, Subaru pointed his finger at Gustav, who was at the seats closest to the arena. Gustav's stern face remained unchanging at Subaru's provocative attitude, only reacting by squinting his eyes. Without saying a word, Gustav turned his back and walked away from the seats, and returned to the island. Cleaning up the bodies and dealing with the surviving gladiators was left to the guards, his subordinates. Schwartz, Subaru, oh? As Subaru watched Gustav walk away, someone running toward him called out his name. It was Hyun, who jumped down from the stands and came running toward Subaru. He seemed to have the scales of his entire body standing on end, and he grabbed Subaru's shoulder with his large, webbed fingers. Hyun, what the hell were you thinking? No, how did you end up back in a Sparker in the first place? Subaru, punishment. It's punishment, Hyun, it's punishment? Subaru, yeah. Another gladiator told me that if you disobey Gustav-san or the guards, the administration of the island, you will be warned at first, and punished thereafter. Evil offenders are prey to the curse. After speaking to several gladiators, he had made sure he had corroborated this. Everyone seemed to know Gustav's desire not to needlessly waste the number of gladiators as much as possible, and there was a common understanding of the rules laid out. Punishment, that is, forced participation in a Sparker performed by an unrelated unit. Subaru, Sparker is a rite of passage for people who are going to become new gladiators, and those who already became gladiators don't participate. They have their own units, so there's no reason for them to do it. In addition, the unit that would be assembled for Sparker would be randomly selected from the members who entered Gladiator Island at the time of the Sparker. In other words, you could not choose whether you were compatible or whether you liked each other or not. It was such a daunting task to be paired with partners who did not know what you can do, what you were good at, or who you were, and being forced to work with them to defeat the gladiator beast in order to complete it. A dangerous battle to the death where there was no merit in undertaking it, but the possibility of death was all too great. Gladiators were unanimous in saying that Sparker was the toughest fight to the death on Gladiator Island. Subaru, well, now it seems that because of Ceci, there is a perception that the death matches that are done with him are the worst. Hyun, I know why you joined that Sparker. But, Subaru, Hyun, in the first place, why did you have to be punished? You know, it's strange that after all that talk up there, you could immediately join the Sparker. It's like, there, Hyun took a pause in his angered speech, letting his gaze wander. Subaru shrugged his little shoulders at Hyun's hesitance to say the remaining words ahead of that sentence. He sort of understood what he wanted to say. Subaru, it was as if I was trying to help Orson and the others. Hyun, HK, Subaru, you're not wrong. If I wasn't there, they would have all been killed. In fact, even with Subaru, the situation of the battle was terrible, because to be as one with them, who were no better suited for fighting than Hyun, he had to start by becoming their ally, when they were united as fellow lizardmen. It was rather helpful, though, recalling seeing Chaos Flame. Subaru, I heard that you were all trying to get to Chaos Flame? Hyun, WH, Subaru, you should really talk about that kind of stuff. After all, you guys got to see each other again. As he said this, Subaru put his hand atop Hyun's hand on his shoulder. Hyun stared into Subaru's black eyes with his slit-pupilled eyes wide open. Staring back at him, Subaru cocked his chin towards the 5 lizardmen. The 5, who had been basking in the joy of their survival, gradually had time to look around them, and one of them, Codley, noticed Hyun's presence, and then, Codley, Hyun. It's Hyun. He's alive. He's alive. Codley's voice rang out with a jovial look on his face, and then the other 4 looked at Hyun. They all expressed their delight with Hyun's presence and were reacting positively to him. Subaru saw Hyun's face contort as he saw his fellow lizardmen's reactions. Subaru, this is the chance I risked my life for. Savor it, bro. Slapping his hunched back, Subaru sent Hyun off in the direction of his friends. Hyun hesitated a few times, but then moved forward with faltering steps and, Hyun, SCH, Schwartz, Subaru, yeah? Hyun, thanks. With that said, Hyun walked up to the 5 who were waiting. Orson and the others had no animosity or malice toward Hyun, because Subaru already knew why the 5 were captured and brought to Gladiator Island. If they could talk it over properly, there would be no reason for them to be at odds with each other. Tanza, Schwartz Summer, Subaru, whoa. As he watched this reunion of Hyan and his friends, he was startled by a voice from behind. As he jumped into the air, he was so surprised that he broke out into a coughing fit, and, Subaru, that was close. I almost died. Don't scare me like that, Tanza, that is my line. Why so sudden? Do you want to die, Subaru? No, I don't want to die, Tanza scolded Subaru, who turned around with his hand over his mouth, chastising him harshly. The little girl's vehement protests had Subaru shaking his head helplessly. Tanza, however, looked not at all convinced by this excuse. Tanza, I was very surprised to see you join Sparker out of the blue. And to know it was the result of you defying Governor Gustav. I cannot help but think you were throwing away your life because you didn't need it. Subaru, it's a misunderstanding that I don't need my life. I don't think there's many people who understand the value of life better than I do, you know? That's why I saved Hyan's friends, too. Tanza, I am talking to you about your own life. I am glad that you were able to save them because it turned out well in the end, but from my point of view, there were many times when you were placed in a dangerous position. This is simply a miracle, Subaru, a miracle, ha. Dropping the tone of her voice, Tanza chided Subaru's recklessness from a pragmatic point of view, just as she said, and it was probably true that there were a number of harrowing moments as she watched. Subaru could understand why Tanza wanted to call it a miracle. But it wasn't. Subaru, miracles come from God, but this one is my doing. So, this was not a miracle, it was proof that Natsuki Subaru had kicked away such a shitty fate. Tanza, you acted so recklessly just to help Hyan Summer's companions? Or, is this just retaliation for your tit-for-tat with Segment Summer? Subaru, no, it's true that I was angry at Ceci, but I would be a crazy guy if I had risked my life for that. You know, I had a good reason for saving Hyan's friends. Tanza, Subaru, what incredibly doubtful eyes. It was amazing how there was a steep drop in the persuasiveness of Subaru's explanation. With his shoulders slumped under Tanza's distrustful gaze, as if she were looking at a criminal caught red-handed, Subaru muttered weakly, it's true. Tanza let out a small exhale at Subaru's pathetic state. Tanza, then, what is your goal? Subaru, it's. As Tanza changed her attitude and moved on from the topic, Subaru turned around once more to answer her question. Hyan and his 5 companions were talking together. Subaru could hear a subtle rise in the pitch of Hyan's voice as he spoke. That was why? Subaru, maybe we should wait a little longer before we talk about it. Tanza, Schwartz Summer? Subaru, what incredibly doubtful eyes. Exasperated by such a lack of trust in himself, Subaru surreptitiously stuck his finger in his mouth. Then, he double-checked the position of the package that was hooked to the molar. Subaru, what was the last resort that Subaru had asked Old Man Null to concoct. He had seized this loop by overcoming a desperate challenge, and he absolutely did not want to accidentally ruin it with an inadvertent mistake. He had to be very careful not to die from careless mistakes. Thinking this, Subaru stuffed the wrapped drug behind his molar. Hyan, if it's according to what Orson's group had to say, it seems Chaos Flame had gotten destroyed. Tanza, at the bitter-faced Hyan's report, Tanza lowered her round eyebrows and cast her eyes down. Even having imagined the worst situation that could possibly happen, it did not ease the shock of being told that it actually happened. Even if you knew you were going to fall, it hurts all the same when it happens. After Sparker was over, Orson and the others, who survived safely and were welcomed as gladiators, were then led by the guards to show them around the island's facilities and common rooms. Even though they were comrades, they and Hyan were from different units, so they could not be together, so he meekly appeared in the room of Subaru and the others, who were in the same unit as him, and that was how they shared the stories Subaru had wanted to know. Hyan, you wanted these kinds of outside stories, right? You can't get any information from outside if you stay on this island after all. Subaru, it's half and half. No, let's make it about 7-3. The side with the 7 is for the sake of Hyan's and Orson's group. Hyan, what are you saying, you creepy kid? Hyan spoke as if he meant it, but, with his arms crossed, he turned away. Subaru was glad to see that Hyan had gotten his feelings in order and had thought about what Subaru's purpose had been in joining that Sparker. Hyan's expression seemed to brighten somewhat, surely because he had been able to hear the important topics from Orson and the others. That was, Hyan, those idiots were caught trying to get me back from the slave traders. There's really no saving them. Subaru, God and fate are both heartless. That's why I helped them, or should I say we. Hyan, Hare, what do you mean? In reality, you're the only one who participated in the Sparker. Subaru, Hyan, you got down on your knees with snot running down your nose and requested earnestly, I beg of you to help me, please, Schwartz-Summer. Hyan, don't talk nonsense. A hand stretched out and grabbed his head and shook him jerkily. Then, letting go of Subaru, who was dizzied, the sniffling Hyan noticed Tanza's state. Hyan called out to the girl as Pipsqueak as she cast her eyes down, having heard the story about Chaos Flame. Hyan, are you feeling down about Chaos Flame? Why, Tanza, Chaos Flame is my hometown. Even when the town was on the verge of collapse, I was. Hyan, I see, that's it, huh? Hyan's eyes swayed from side to side, puzzled by the unexpected reply. His character of being vulnerable to accidents had slipped out, but he immediately shouted, but, Hyan, it certainly seems that the town had gotten destroyed, but it said that the people who lived there didn't get wiped out. The guys in the town all went to a different place. It's hard to explain, but, Tanza, it is hard to explain. Hyan, nah, I just don't know how much of it I should believe. With that preamble, Hyan hesitated about what words to say next. But, the interests of Tanza and Subaru were directed towards the follow-up to his story. Having sensed that, Hyan breathed a heavy sigh and then, Hyan, apparently, there's been a big rebellion going on outside. The lot from Chaos Flame are said to be joining that rebellion. Well, the story goes that the head of the demon city was frequently causing uprisings, and the city was also obliterated as a result of her foolishness. Eek. Tanza, Yorna-sama is not foolish. Hyan, I'm sorry. I don't really get the reason, but I'm sorry. Hyan, apologizing quickly, squeaked out a frightened voice at Tanza's sharp gaze. Once again, Hyan was incurring the wrath of his opponent with his unnecessary bravado, but behind him, Subaru found some points of relief in what he had just said. Of course, that's assuming he believed everything of what Hyan relayed from his conversation with Orson and the others. Subaru, Chaos Flame may be done for, but Yorna-san and the townspeople are fine. If there's talk of rebellion, it looks like Abel and the others are safe and sound. The battle to retake the imperial capital would not be able to proceed with Abel gone. In other words, Abel was still alive. He hoped that Medium, Tarata, and even Al were also safe. Hopefully Louis was also safe by Yorna's side. Subaru, as I thought, there's no time to waste. Even when he got fragments of the situation outside, Subaru's desire to go outside grew stronger. Naturally he was worried about everybody in Chaos Flame, but also the people in Garrel, whom Yorna and Abel's group would try to unite with. He was worried about Rem. He got a feeling if she found out he had been shrunken, she would certainly get angry with him again. Subaru. Even though I really wanted to show Rem my reliable aspects, personally, he thought that now he was in better shape with a clearer head, but Subaru could not make excuses about his outward appearance lacking persuasive power. The fact that Tanza was constantly shifting her eyes to him in suspicion was probably not unrelated to his small body. In any case, Subaru, I got it. Thanks, Hyan, you helped me out. Hyan, the ones who got helped out were well, whatever, as long as you get it. Hyan awkwardly responded to Subaru, who had thanked him. Giving a small chuckle at the way he was answered, Subaru was thinking he should follow up on Tanza's side. Schwartz, the governor is calling for you. Outside the common room, the voice of a guard of the Gladiator Island, clad in a black uniform, called out. At his call, Hyan's expression intensified and Tanza's eyes widened in surprise. She looked at the guard. Tanza, Governor Gustav is calling for Schwartz-Summer? Why, guard, I haven't heard. There is also no reason to converse. Quietly obey. Or else, Subaru, it's all right. I'd obediently go along with you even if you weren't being so hostile. By the way, would you punish me in the case that I didn't comply? Guard, Subaru, kidding. At the talkativeness of Subaru, who had one eye closed, the guard who was in the prime of his life, contorted his lips. It was obvious that he did not like Subaru very much. That had been a matter of course. This guard happened to be present when Subaru was talking with Gustav before the Sparker. This was because he was also the person who saw the trigger for Subaru to participate in Sparker, that is to say, the place where he became subject to punishment. From his point of view, Subaru's true nature would seem like a mystery. Because he was ready to join a Sparker of his own volition, he was surely a kid who was out of his mind. Subaru, well, I'm heading out for a bit. Tanza, please be a good girl and wait for me. Tanza, though it is you, Schwartz Summer, do take care to moderate your mischief. Subaru, yeah, I can't argue with that. At Tanza's stifled tone of voice, Subaru's wry smile grew deeper and deeper. With that, obeying the guard who silently urged him to hurry up, and Subaru left the room. Just then, Hyan called out Schwartz to Subaru's back. Hyan, well, Subaru, What's up, Hyan? No, take care of yourself. Even if it's someone like you, it'll be us who'll be in trouble if the number of people in our unit decreases after all. Subaru's face became puzzled at those disingenuous words of concern. Then he immediately spit out a PFFT and nodded back at Hyan. Subaru, yep, I know. Well, see ya later. With a wave of his hand, Subaru temporarily parted from Tanza and Hyan. Then, while following the back of the guard walking in front of him, Subaru, Gustav-san, was he angry? Guard, the governor is not one to get emotional. Unlike me, to not provoke him with any unnecessary words, having that be implicitly expressed to him, Subaru dejectedly ducked his head. Like that, the two of them saw Subaru off as he was taken away by the guards. But, Whites, hey, what did that Schwartz kid do? Idra? Just now, what the guards took him away for, was it also for something other than the Sparker? Whites and Idra appeared in the room where Tanza and Hyan had stayed behind. They, too, had watched Subaru's Sparker from the spectators' seats. Naturally, there were many things they wanted to ask Subaru, who had done such a reckless thing. Although, while not at a position as cornered as Hyan was, it was not like they had such a short temper that they would jump down from the spectator seats. But, Whites, Tanza, are you aware of what's going on? Tanza, I am both somewhat aware and unaware. It is complicated. It seems that Schwartz Summer had been hiding things from me as well. Whites, he's a suspicious guy. Though that has some capacity in its own way. At the words of Tanza, who cast her eyes downward, Whites and Idra exchanged glances and heaved a sigh. Listening to the conversation of those three, Hyan remained silently still. Although he was a lizard man, making it difficult to discern his expression, his eyes, swaying from side to side, made it obvious that he was worrying about something. As a result, the three called out to him with Hyan and Hyan Summer respectively. Idra, what's with that face? Hyan, no, you. Guys are also aware that Schwartz kid got mixed up in the Sparker on purpose, right, Idra? That's what it seems everybody thought, upon seeing that situation. Idra answered the faltering Hyan's words, and Tanza and Whites both nodded their heads in agreement. Generally, this seemed to be the common understanding of all the gladiators who had watched the battle in the gladiatorial arena. Then, from anyone's perspective, today's Sparker would not have been a success without Subaru's active participation. Whites, for me, I don't know what his intentions were in doing that, but, Hyan, I ain't got any idea either. But, Whites, but, what? Hyan, I ain't exactly sure why he did that, but why he was able to do that, maybe, you might get it. As he continued with that, the three aside from Hyan also seemed to understand. The question was not why Subaru had joined Sparker, but how Subaru had joined Sparker and been able to survive. Aside from Tanza, it was not a question unrelated to Whites and Idra. Therefore, as he was met with a look of intense interest, Hyan gulped down his spit, and then, Hyan, that guy is, I heard from some people who just came from outside that there seems to be a rumor going around that the illegitimate son of the emperor is out there somewhere. So, here's the thing, everyone. Hyan, the rumors about a brat, with black hair and black eyes,